Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for coming today. I'm really excited that we can start these tech talks again. It's been a little minute that we haven't had any. So I'm really excited to just dive on in. And so today we're going to be doing an introduction to Gmail, Google Drive, Google Calendar, Google Meet. We really want to start emphasizing some of these Google tools that we have in our G Suite for education um, through NMDELT. So we're really, really excited to get started with this. My name is Mariah Guillen, and my email is down there. So if you ever have any questions or you would just like to reach out afterwards on some of these concepts, maybe you would like some further training, we can definitely get that for you. But this is going to be a very basic introduction of some of these tools that we have, some of the very basic tools just to kind of help you get started with Google and all of the Google tools that are available. You can always ask questions in the chat. If you have a question, you can raise your hand, anything like that. Jamie will be moderating. So, there. See, I'm not supposed to be playing with stuff while I'm presenting. Jamie will be moderating the chat. So if you have any questions, you can go ahead and type them in the chat, and Jamie will answer them either by chat or turn on her mic and let me know that there is a question. All right. So here we go. We're going to get started. Now we're going to do a quick survey. So using the chat, which Google application do you feel most comfortable using? Gmail, Drive, Calendar, or Meet? And I'm going to give you just a second to type in the chat, or you can turn on, since we're a small group, you can go ahead and turn on your mic and let me know.
Okay. Dr. Tran says Gmail and Meet once in a while.
Awesome. I think pretty much everyone is comfortable with Meet. Jamie, I'm going to ask you, I know you're not feeling well, but Jamie, which one do you feel most comfortable using?
I think for me, Calendar and Drive are my two big ones that I feel most comfortable using.
Awesome. I have to say, I think Calendar is the one that I'm most comfortable using. It's a lot of fun, and it's pretty easy to use, and it really has managed my life a lot more than I care to admit sometimes. So awesome. We are going to go ahead and dive on into using Gmail. So like the first step, whenever you sign up for a Gmail account, typically what you're thinking about is an email and how you can utilize it. So we're going to talk about two different things. The first one is going to be simply utilizing it. What is it best used for? So when we think about Gmail, you can use it for creating, sending, or scheduling emails. We can also use it for organizing emails by labels, moving them between tabs. This just helps to organize your life, organize some of your emails. I know I use this a lot now that I know how to use it. If I see that an email isn't in a spot where I would like it to be, I can move it. It's easier to find emails. And so it's really great for organizing any of those communications. You can also highlight emails to identify which ones are important or which ones you would like to start. And so there's a little bit of a distinction between the two that we're going to talk about here in a moment. And then you can also snooze an email. And I love this feature so much because a lot of times I see an email and I'm like, oh, I need to come back to it. And if I don't snooze it, then I never come back to it. That's just how my brain works. If I don't get to it, then if it doesn't remind me later, it just kind of gets forgotten until somebody's like, hey, do you remember? I was like, oh, yeah. So snooze is a great feature that it has. You can also personalize your email, which is one of the great things about Google. A lot of emails do have this, but you can personalize it in the settings. You can change the outlook. You could select a theme. You could change the font. You could create a signature. All of those things are available in the settings. So diving right in, I want to do two things. I'm going to do a quick overview of how you would do it, and then I want to show it to you live. So the first one is actually creating, sending, and scheduling emails. So if you're in Gmail, this is kind of what you would look at. So you have your inbox all right here. You have this compose button where you would go and you would create an email. So if I come in here, and of course I create my email, I could directly send it if I need to send it at that moment. If you are doing work like late at night, which, I don't know who would do that. I definitely don't work, at midnight and try to get emails out. But
I never do that.
I know, never. if you really don't want people to know, or you're being courteous and you don't want them to, wake up if they have notifications on their phone or anything like that. If you would like to schedule, there is this little arrow button that would create a little drop up which says schedule send. Now this button has saved me. Oops. This button has saved me many times. So I'm going to go ahead and come here just to this quick schedule. So here I go to compose. I'm going to bring it up. So if I come here to send and I hit schedule. Ooh, all right. Grumpy. There we go. If I hit schedule send, then it does give me some suggested times, which is just pretty standard. It kind of gives you an idea of when you might want to do it. It also tells you what time you're sending it in. So for me, I'm really glad that it's on Mountain Daylight Time because I do live in Central Standard Time. So that is really nice that it has it there, just kind of identify where you're sending it or what time it will be sending. So you can either select one of these if those work, or you can also pick a date, of course, and select it and then hit schedule send. Now, the nice thing with this, okay, is what'll happen is here on the side, it shows you all of your scheduled. So if you realize, oh man, I don't really want to do that. I wanted to do something else. You can come here, you can cancel the send. And that's about it. You cannot edit once you have it scheduled. You can't edit a message. So that's just something to kind of keep in your mind. So what I would do is if I needed to edit something, I would just copy and paste. Right now, since I didn't put any text in there, it would just send it like this. And so there's nothing to copy and paste. But if I wanted to edit, I would just copy and paste and create a new email. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel send. Perfect. Oop. There we go. All right. Now going back. So that's one of the things, very easily just creating a simple email. It looks like any other email. So this is pretty basic. Like I said, is you just send it who you're going to send it to, the subject, the body paragraph, and then you have all of these wonderful features down here that you could, make a signature. You could make it confidential. If you do that, it depends on the time frame that you give it. And once that time frame is over, it'll delete the message so that they can't access it again. Photos, you can insert anything from Drive. If you want emojis, those are always fun. It's only if you're like very informal. I've learned that not something too formal. You might want to add an emoji in there, just kind of keep it light. You can insert links, attach files, and you can even format some of your fonts, something like you would see in like a Word document. You can change up all of your font. You can structure it a little bit different, have bullet points, make it a little bit more personalized. Now, of course, emails, it depends on your style of emailing, but if you would like something a little bit more intensive, you can definitely try out some of these features. So now organize emails by creating labels and moving between tabs. Now, this is one of my favorites. I tried last year. I had the goal and I said in 2021, I am going to be organized. That lasted for probably a whole 30 seconds. And that was about it. And I think all of us can pretty much agree about 30 seconds is as long as our organizational skills, unless my supervisor is amazing and she just has that skill. I do not have that skill at all. But one of the things you can do is come here to the managing labels. Now, what labels will do is you'll identify what category you want it in. So it combines all of your emails into one label. So if you have like work, or very specifically, if you had the Tech Talks and you wanted all the emails from Tech Talks to be with this label, you can definitely do this. Or if you're doing like ELA, you can make an ELA label. It's just something to identify it with a little bit more. So now with managing labels, this can get a little bit overwhelming because once you hit this managing labels button, you come to this page where it shows what it'll show on the sidebar that I just had up like this. This will show which ones you want to show, which ones you want to hide. So like you noticed here, the scheduled wasn't on there unless it was an unread or unsent message. So I could always have that showing, or I can always have that hiding. So this really helps to organize, which ones you want on there to show kind of on your bar, or which ones do you want on the side or not to show unless there's something like these show if unread. Those are really great options. I like to kind of keep mine clean. And so I try to have as many as I can hidden unless I need to come back and search for them. And then, of course, these are some of the standard basic categories that are there. The social updates, forums, and promotions. Now, what you could do down here is create a label that is personalized to yourself. And so you would just create that label, type in the name, it'll tell you which options you want, and then if you want it to show in the message list. Excuse me. And so that's really nice if you're really, really organized and want to do that. Like I said, that lasted for me for like 30 seconds, but it was really nice 30 seconds. So the other thing that I wanted to show right quick is what if, and I had this question a lot. Sometimes I get, oh, this one doesn't have it. Sometimes I get emails that are sent and they have the promotions tab. See, Jamie, I did all of this on mine and now it's not here.
Oh, shoot.
I know. You got to love it. All right. I'm going to switch to mine right quick. Shouldn't be bad. All right. So if I am in mine, and some of your guys's, maybe not everyone has this. Now I'm beginning to wonder. But if you have your email set up to where, awesome. So on mine, I have primary, promotions, and I guess I don't have updates. But if I have primary and promotions, let's say, and for a while there, these ones reminding me about the tech talks would end up in promotions. Now, let's just say for the fun of it, that I want these emails to be in my primary. I don't want them to come here. I want them to come into my primary. All I'm going to do is click and drag it to primary. And then it'll say conversation move to primary. Do this for future messages from this email. And then I would hit yes. And so now anytime that email sends it to me, it'll come into my primary, so I'll see it right away. So especially if you're seeing that some of your emails aren't getting directly into your primary inbox, you will want to have it moved over. And so the easiest way to do that is just to click and drag it. Now, I have tried this on my cell phone. It does not work very well. You can move it, but it won't do it continually. So this is a feature that you definitely do want to do on your desktop rather than on like a even the iPad was a little weird when I tried to do it. It was a little bit cranky. So definitely this is a desktop feature that you would like to have. Or a desktop, that something that you would want to organize on your desktop. There you go. But let me go back here. Here we go. So you can definitely manage it. I'm going to have to figure out where all of those tabs go because I know I have them on there, but I know all of them don't. So you can have it all like come into one place, or you can definitely separate it from one to the other. Awesome. Here we go. The next tab that we're going to is highlighting which emails are important versus starring an email. So the nice thing about this is that here we go. There are two different features here. There is this starred and this little arrow type button. And I'm going to make this just a tad bigger. All right. So there is this starred and there is this arrow button. This arrow button right here indicates that these are important emails. So whenever you mark something as important, it'll mean that that it's something that you want your computer to start recognizing, to highlight. So if you ever type in something, it recognizes, oh, this is an important email. Let's move it up to the top. And it just kind of starts circulating some of those keywords that you might be looking for. It's one of those filter things that really work. Now, if you hit a star button, this just means that it will move it into in a folder that says this is an important one that you want to remember for later on. So if I drop down here to this more, I have my important, which will show all of the ones that I have marked with this little yellow tab. So to make something not important, all I would do is click and it would disappear. That's not what I wanted to do, but that's what I did. Okay. So I would just click on this and it would remove it from being yellow to just being clear. And then that shows that it's not important and it'll kind of forget about, those keywords that are in there and start shuffling through what you feel or what you would be seen as important. Now I can also go to my starred, which is one of my favorite folders because this is where I put everything that I want to remember. All of my starred are things that I refer to a lot. I always go back and I'm always looking at them. Um, and it just helps organize it because a lot of these are starred, like, oh, or all of these are listed as important because that's the way that I have it. I'm like, oh, yeah, this one's an important one, especially if I find that it's going to spam and I start marking it as important, it'll remove it from the spam because recently when they did one of the updates, a lot of my emails started going to spam. So it's just one of those things where sometimes if there is an update, you have to kind of remind Google, hey, this isn't spam, this is important. So the more often that you star some of these, the more it'll start recognizing, hey, this isn't spam, I recognize this keyword, it's an important message, stuff like that. So that's the difference between the important and the starred. Um, the starred, you identify exactly which ones that you want to remember and that you can pick up. I need to really clean up my starred file just a little bit, but my important ones aren't as bad because it's just to help Google recognize, hey, this is something that I want to keep an eye out to make sure that all of them are going to the right place. Oh, perfect. And I have this that I started writing down just the difference of where you can find it. So remember, as you put more labels on there or as you request which ones it wants to show and which one it doesn't, it'll put it here on this drop down box where you have your general right here and then your less, which will show you which ones, where you want your buttons to be put. All right, now mail options. Whenever you open up an email, there are several different options that you can look at that you can utilize. I was really excited to go through some of these because I was like, oh, I haven't seen that button in a while. Oh, I forgot that I could do this on Gmail, but there are a lot of different things that you can do. So the first one is to archive. Whenever you archive it, you just kind of like put it away for a rainy day. It's still important. You don't want to delete it, but it's in its own little folder. So that way you can remember where it is. And if you ever have to pull it out, it's still there. Maybe you don't want it floating around in your inbox. You don't really want it starred. You just want to keep it. So you hit this archive button and it'll take you right, or it'll put it into a separate folder so you can take it out when it's, a rainy day. The next one is to report it as spam. If you do open one that you're not sure if it was spam or not, you open it up and you're like, oh no, this is spam. I don't want to see any more like this. You can hit that button and it'll automatically move it over to your spam and it should update for anyone else. The problem with this, if you want to delete something, make sure you delete it and not put it as spam, because if I hit spam, then any other email. So if I said, oh, this one is from Jamie, I don't want to see it. I already have 3 or 4 different notifications because I'm on 3 or 4 different listservs. I would want to hit delete rather than spam because you never want to just say, okay, that email I never want to see from again. So make sure if you don't want to see that email or this email address come up in your inbox, then you would hit spam. And then of course there is trash. As soon as you hit trash, it goes directly in there. And I believe it is 30 days before it actually permanently deletes. The next one is mark as unread. I use this button all the time because I tell myself, okay, self, if you mark it as unread, then you'll come back to it. Not always the case, but it sounds really good in my head. But you can always mark something if you realize, oh, I don't want to read this quite yet, or I want to come back to it. You can definitely hit that button and mark it as unread and come back to it later. And then there's the snooze button, probably one of my favorite features now, um, because I can snooze an email for like 2 days or 2 hours, and it'll automatically pop up again after those 2 hours, 2 days, whatever it is. It'll pop up as a new message, and so it'll be like, "You have a new email," and I'll be like, "Oh, I do," and once I see it, I'm like, "Okay, I had to, come back and redo that task or redo that, not redo, but address that issue." So that is actually one of my favorite buttons now because I do that a lot where I tell myself, especially with spring break coming around, I can say, oh, you know what? I'm fine. I'll leave it till after spring break and we're happy with it. So that is a really good button to use. The next one is to add a task. If it is something that you have to address, you can hit that button and it'll put it into your calendar. So that way it just kind of reminds you, hey, this is something that you need to do next week, or this is something that you have to address in a couple of days, a couple of hours, something like that. Or maybe you just want a task list that you have. It will put it somewhere else so you have to address it later on. And then moving to a folder. This is really good. It's part of those labeling, putting stuff into folders, managing it a little bit more. So if you want it in like the inbox folder or this folder, you can definitely do that as well. It depends. You can make folders as well. So it depends on which folder you want it to use. So you can have things in folders and then you can have things in labels. So there's several different ways that you can do that, because the next button is managing the label. So like I said, you can have it in a folder and the label can be like, if I have the work folder and then I have a label, TSTM, or this would be for me. Like I have my work folder and then I have TSTM and then I have support team and then I have AE or ESL. I can have everything in one folder and then with several different labels. Perfect.
Mariah, really quick question before you move on to calendar. There was a question in the chat. Can you unsnooze
Yes.
an email?
Yes, you can. So all you would do is that snooze button is one of those manage on the side. So let me come up a little bit. When you have snoozed right here, this button will pop up. And so some of you have it up, some of you will have it hidden. But if there is an email that you snooze, you can come here and it'll say unsnooze or complete a task. I don't remember what it is, but there is definitely that button that you can come. If you have something that's snooze and you get to it sooner than you thought, you can definitely come in here and just remove that label. Awesome. That was a good question. I didn't even think about that one.
Definitely.
Usually I leave everything snoozing until the last possible minute. That's why I'm always late for work. All right. Awesome. Were there any other questions?
No other questions in the chat right now.
Awesome. Perfect. Cool. And know that there are several different features in Gmail. There are so many. I started looking, I was like, okay, I really have to narrow it down to just the couple that I feel are very important for beginners, for kind of starting off with your, Gmail account, your NMDELT, all of that. And so there are a ton more features. If you have a question on one or you would like to see how something else is used, please reach out to me and let me know and we can definitely address it. But there are so many things that you can do. You're not just limited to this. So we're going to move on to It's a Date with Google Calendar. My favorite, well, everything in Google is my favorite. You're going to hear me say that all day long. My favorite. No. Google Calendar has really been a lifesaver for me because it helps me create a daily schedule. It helps me with tasks. It helps me with knowing when my meetings are going to be. And it's very user friendly. I absolutely love using Google Calendar. And recently it has helped me like really bring down that stress level. And so I'm going to talk about that. That's like my favorite part right now is I'm really excited about that focus time that I'm going to talk about here at the end. So when you open Google Calendar, you will have something that looks like this. Now, know that everyone has different settings. So if you want a different look, if you need something that's a little bit more structured or something like that, you can always come to the settings button and play with the settings as much as you want. You can also look at everything by the month or by the week, by the day. I think it's by every 4 days. You can include weekends. You don't have to include weekends. You can include holidays. There's a lot of different ways that you can actually look at this calendar. And then it shows you today, or if you're looking at yesterday, it'll address it by this blue circle. So this was done today. And this little circle is identifying the day that you are actually on. Now, with this, there are, like you see here, there are a lot of different options on this side. If we were doing more of an advanced, I would definitely come here. But these are just some of the options that you have. You have like notes, you have your tasks, you have your contacts, and I do not remember what that one is at the moment, but you do have a lot of options here. So this can look very cluttered at first, but like I said, it is definitely a lifesaver. Now, there are two ways that you can create an event, create a meeting, whatever you would like. The first one is to hit this create button, and then you would come in here, mark, select a time, find a time, anything like that. or you can simply click on it. So like what I did today is I just clicked right here from the 9 to 10 a.m. from last Sunday. And what I would do is add a title, whoever my title is. I can mark if it's an event, if I want it to be focus time, which just means, time that I'm going to have to myself, or if I'm going to be out of the office, if it's a task, or if it's an appointment. Now, all of these little tabs have a certain meaning for them. So usually I put the times that I'm out of office, aside from the normal time that I'm at home, I'll put the time that I'm out of office so people know. Or if I have a task that I don't want anybody bothering me with, I put it right there as well. I have appointments. All of this has a purpose for it. Then I could do it. Typically, what Meet does or what Calendar does is it sections off an hour of time. And this one does not repeat. So you can definitely go in there and change all of that. If I wanted to add a guest, so like these sessions right now, if I wanted to add a guest, I would simply type in their name. If they have an NMDelt account, then it'll automatically tie them into it. So it will send them an invite directly from this. If you have just their name and their email, it'll do the same thing, but it won't tie their Gmail account if it's not linked to it. Or I could add a location description. It doesn't have to be like a meeting, like a virtual meeting like this. It could just be something that you want to add for yourself. And then right here, it shows which calendar you want it to be on. So notice right here, it has several different calendars. This one is only selected. This is from my college. And so you would just kind of figure out which one do you want it to show up on. If you have it for a class, or if you have it for another, just a different grouping of people, you can definitely change which calendar you want it to be on. Now, if you want the more options, more extensive, all of that, you can open up, go back, open up this more options, and it'll take you to this page where you can add as many guests. You can say, can they have these permissions? Yes or no. Is there notes? Are there notes that need to be addressed? What is the time? You can find a time. If you hit find a time and you put in all the people that you want there, it'll show you what times everyone is available, which has been a lifesaver so many times. And then of course, changing my calendar, I can change the color. I can say whether it's busy or if I want to identify it as work, out of work, whatever I want. And then I can decide who sees it and who doesn't. Now, typically for me, I allow everyone to see it because if somebody wants to tag on and see, hey, I want to just send a message, when is the best time for her to meet? Let me give her some options. I'd rather everyone see it rather than going through the, can you meet here? No, here? No. What about this time? No, not that one. This really does save those long emails where it's like, how about we meet at this time? Oh, no, I'm busy during that time. What about this time? This is such a lifesaver to do that. So if I come here, and I'm jumping around just a little bit, I'm sorry. Perfect. Where am I? Perfect. So what I would do here is once I was done, then I would hit save. Now, if you aren't making a meeting quite yet, but you would like to, what you would do here is simply search for a person. So for example, I'm going to search for myself. Okay. And what it'll do is it'll pop up these times that I am busy. And I'm going to go by the week because the week is a little bit easier to see. Perfect. So for here, because it highlights my name orange, it's going to show what times I am busy. So like I said, if you were to say, hey, I want to meet up with Mariah, instead of asking, hey, what times can you meet? I could come here and propose a time. It makes it just that much easier and say, hey, I noticed that on Wednesday at 1 o'clock, you're not busy. Could we potentially do a meeting then? It just saves a little bit more time than having to do, can you meet this time? Can you meet that time? Oh, no. Oh, yes. And so if I wanted to add another person, and since Jamie's on here, I'm going to add Jamie. Now, what you'll notice is that it has my name in orange, Jamie's name in red. So it shows which time each one of us is busy. Now, if there are multiple people, this kind of helps as well. It helps to propose a single time. And sometimes like I don't put all of my class times on here because I'm not that organized. I generally know, and people generally know that my mornings are kind of blocked off for that. But if I wanted to, I definitely could put all of that information up here, and it makes it, again, that much easier to do those things. So I'm going to go ahead and X out of that. Perfect. So
So there was a question in the chat about this feature. Is it only for Gmail users, or could it be with others such as Yahoo or some kinds of .edu email addresses?
so they do have to be linked to a Google Calendar. It does have to be linked to a Google Calendar. So sometimes I know some people have like their Yahoo, they might have their Yahoo account tied to a Google Calendar, um like a joint. I don't know how I did it, but I have a Yahoo account and I do have it tied in with my personal Gmail. Um, and so it does link it like that. But I don't know if you just had like a I don't know even if Yahoo has their own calendar or not. I know it doesn't work with Outlook. Um, it just doesn't pair up very well. So yeah, it the best way to use it would be if it was between Gmail or anyone with the uh, Google Google tools. Yes. That's a good question. Oh, I love it when I didn't think of these questions and they come up. Those are the best. Perfect.
Well, we have a good trainer and the best monitors.
Oh,
Aw, thank you.
yeah, thank you. That made my day. I'm all happy now. um, Perfect. So if you search for people, it makes it that much easier. Um, you could try searching for some. I think I've tried it before. If they have, like I said, if they have something that is connected to it, it'll work. If not, you won't see any times available for them. And then the next one. Okay, now to my favorite part is the focus time. Recently, and this is a little bit more of a personal note, is I went to my doctor and she's like, your stress levels are off the chart. She's like, you have anxiety and it could lead to depression, all of that. And I was like, well, she's like, how much time are you spending a day at work? I was like, I don't feel like I stopped working. And she's like, take some time to go relax, just do something. And I always come up with the excuse like, I just don't have time. I'm always sitting down. I'm always doing stuff. The more stuff that you put onto your calendar, it gives you what's called a time insight. So this is from my personal Gmail or my personal calendar where it says just this week, I was in hours for on average 2.7 during the week. So about every day I had about 2 hours, which is right. So as it tracks your time and how many meetings you're in and all of this, it'll find a focus time. So right here it says try scheduling weekly focus times on days with fewest meetings. And it identified Monday as being the most calmest day that I have, which is true. I don't have very much on Monday. Do I find things to do? Yeah, that's a different story. But it definitely does find that time. So it really does help. And I feel like this is a little bit more of has helped with my mental health, just in giving me that little bit of insight, like, hey, you're putting in all of your information, we're understanding it. Set aside some work to do this, to go take a walk, to do something, especially if you find yourself sitting in that spot where, I don't have time to do anything. This really does help to kind of give that time breakdown and schedule it out. I could also set working hours, like class times that I have class, which would help identify it a little bit more. But it does find that focus time for you. And that's one of my new favorite features of Google in Google Calendar. It's one of the smallest things. It's like not even work related, but it is the best. It really is the best.
I would say it's totally work related because it helps you to be more efficient when you are working.
You know what? That is true. And that I know myself, and I don't schedule it in there. I don't say, oh, yes, I'm going to do focus time. I probably should, because it would remind me, hey, you know what? Now it's time to focus time, go take a walk or go do something. But I have become a little bit more conscious about it and say, hey, you know what? I need just like an hour right now. Do I have anything going on? Yeah, this probably is a good time to do that. So yeah, you're right. Because then afterwards, I do feel a lot more productive most of the time. There's some days like yesterday, it was just like, no, not happening. We're on spring break. We're on spring break. All right. The next one we're going to do, and I'm going to try to wrap this up as quickly as possible, is meeting with Google Meets. Now, like I said, before I continue on, this is a lot of information, and this is just a webinar. This is just presenting materials to you, some of the features that you can start with. But know that there are a lot more things that you can do. So if you would like a little bit more of an intensive training, we can definitely set something up. We can either think about another webinar or we can do it individually. You just let us know what is going to be best for you. Okay. Just keep in mind that this is a lot of information. We understand that. But we just kind of want to jumpstart some of you guys, excuse me, to getting used to some of these Google tools and how to use them. Words just disappeared out of my head, but how to use them best for you, yourself, your program, however that works.
Mariah, I have a question.
Yes.
Before you go on with this, on the Google Calendar, it said something about out of office. Is that where you put, and it comes up, I'm out of office right now? I mean, Jamie will do that a lot of times. I'm out of office. Please call so and so. Is that where you put that? Or is that what causes that?
So, like, if you send an email and it comes back with saying that you're out of office,
Yeah.
that is a feature in Gmail. Right, Jamie?
So that is the vacation responder.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, that is a feature in the Gmail settings. So if you go to settings, the settings gear, and then you go to see all settings, it's going to be in your very first window. So when you go to see all settings and you scroll down, it's kind of near the bottom. There's your vacation responder. So you can, like, for example, just like Mariah, I'm on spring break next week. So I have already set up my vacation responder to say I'm out on spring break. I will be checking emails when I come back. And you can even have it automatically start and stop on a particular day so you don't have to remember to come back and turn it off, which is really nice. And you can customize your message, as you can see. So you can customize the subject, the message, and who to send it to if you choose.
See, Jamie is really good at that. I just let them send a message and usually I respond. I need to get better at that. Jamie's like, nope, this is
Part of self-care, Mariah.
I'm learning very slowly, but I'm learning. Yes, that is good. So like we were saying, or like I was saying, there is so much more that I really wanted to dive in because I researching this and doing this, like preparing for this webinar, there is a lot of information, especially here in Gmail, all of the settings, all of the things that you could possibly do. Is it possible to get it through it in a day? No. Is it possible to get through it in a week? Probably not. This is just something you have to do over time, diving in there and seeing where they are. Is it something that we could possibly do in the future? Definitely. If that was something that, you know, everyone throughout the state would want. So that was a great question. Thank you. Where are we? Awesome. Meeting with Meets. Now, there's a lot of different things going on with Meets right now. Some of you guys have all of the new features. Some of you don't. I know that I think we are on a trial basis. I know Tina had said it and I don't remember. So I'm just going to go over the 7 basic functions of Meet right now and just kind of identify what they do. So with Meet, you can create a Meet link for either now or later, and it does connect with your Google Calendar. So if you are trying to make a Google Meet, you can definitely have it linked to your Google Calendar. And then if you wanted to, just go to your calendar and hit the link, or you can always go to the Meet website, which is meet.google.com, and start your meetings there. So there's several ways to do that. And so this is, if you go to meet.google.com, this is somewhat of a, I just took like a smaller green screenshot. You could say new meeting, and then you can create a meeting for later, which is just a link. You can start an instant meeting, which would be like right now, or you can schedule a meeting in calendar. So there are those 3 options. It'll tie you back. So that's one of the nice things about Google is it always ties you back into another app. So you can find it in several different places. It's not just in one place. There's several different places to find it. Cool. So when you start a meeting, if you are the host, this is kind of what it looks like. Um, right here, this would be the sharing option. So I could just click this button, copy and share it with everyone. You can either use, the app, or you can even dial in if you didn't want to have, or if you don't have access to like a camera or a microphone, you can definitely dial in and use it on your phone. Sometimes it'll ask you for a PIN, sometimes it won't. It just depends on the settings that you have. Okay. And so down here, what we're going to look at is we are going to look at these 7 different options, or these 7 different features, and talk through them just a little bit. So the 7 basic functions of Meet. The first one is to mute the Meet sounds. Now, I absolutely love this button now, because I can hit it and you guys won't hear, or I won't hear anything. So if I'm trying to, if we're having a meeting and all of a sudden my phone rings and I absolutely need to answer it, but I'm not talking, I can hit this button and it would mute you all. And I wouldn't hear it. Like, I don't have to come up on my keyboard or on my speakers and turn it off. I could just hit this button and it would mute everything. And so if you're on Meet right now, you might be able to kind of hit it and see what that would do. And that's a great feature to have. I know Zoom had it for a while, and I was like, oh man, Google Meets needs that one. And then Meets got it. And so it's really nice to have as well. This second one is the mute or unmute button. So especially when you hear someone, you're muted. I think that was our favorite quote, or our favorite saying during COVID is, you're on mute, I can't hear you. So that is the mute or the unmute button that you have available to you as well, to turn on or off your microphone. Then the turn on and off camera button is really nice. Sometimes if your bandwidth isn't as great, you can always turn it off and have like better function. So if you're having a hard time hearing, especially in one of these meetings, it might be that you need to turn off your camera and you can hear better, especially if it's starting to cut in and out. Now, sometimes it could be like the presenter's internet, but sometimes it could be your internet. So you might want to try that button, especially if you're having like those sound issues. Now, the closed captioning button, I have not tried it very often, but when you turn it on, it tries to match the text as much as possible. Like I said, I haven't tried that button, but I know that some people have. I don't know how accurate it is, but it is a good one to have, especially since we did go virtual for like 2 years in here in New Mexico, and I think some of us are still, hybrid or somewhat virtual. That was always a good button to have, especially for those students who needed that little bit of extra help trying to understand what was going on in the classroom. Raise your hand. This one is a lot of fun. It's a little hilarious when you start playing with it and you raise your hand and you don't really mean to, because it just looks like a stop button. That's a fun button to have, but especially if you don't want to interrupt someone when they're talking, but you do want to like add in your 2 cents or something, you can raise your hand and then they can say, oh, you know what? Hey, Jamie, do you want to go ahead and turn on your mic and let us know? It's just to identify that you have something to say. And it was always so weird when I remember in class when I had students kind of go, hi, can I say something? And their mic would be off. And I was like, okay, yeah. So this is a great button to have, especially if you are in class and you're like, all right, who wants to do it first? And you have that quick hand raise. You can also identify who is ready to do it or who wants to do it. The share screen button is great. Now with share screen, you can either share a tab, which is just like one page of your screen, or you could share a window. If you share a window as you go back and forth between screens, so like what I'm doing right now is I'm sharing my window because I am going back and forth between this slideshow and between like the actual applications themselves. So it just really depends on which ones you want to use. Do you want to use just one tab where they can only see, one section? If you have to like jump back and forth between other things that you don't want people to see, then you can definitely share just a tab, or you can share your entire window. And then the last one is the end call button, which of course, if you are the host, this is where it gets a little tricky. If you are the host, you can either end the call for yourself or you can end the call for everyone. I am that horrible person that I'm like, okay, guys, I have to leave. You guys can keep talking, and then I end it for everyone. So it's just a matter of being cautious and careful about how you end your call, whether you want to end it for everyone or just for yourself. Okay. Now, the 2 buttons that I did not share but I'll go over right quick. This one is the more options. Now, again, there are a lot of different features in Meet. If you are using Meet right now, I think Tina filtered out who's been using it the most and who hasn't. So if you had been using it quite often, you do have the features to record right now. I do not remember how that is, Jamie, but I know that there for a while, only some of us have the feature to record because I think we're on a trial basis.
That's very possible.
Okay.
And one thing I wanted to mention, I was going to totally raise my hand and use that as an example, but I didn't. Is that for some reason we cannot see the mute meet sound button. So I know that, and Nancy, correct me if I'm wrong, you can't see it either. But myself or no, me and Nancy can't see it. Dr. Tran, I don't know if you have that in your toolbar, but the mute meet sound button is not showing up for me, nor is the very last one on the right, which I believe dims it. I think
This
that's
one
the
right here?
dimmer. Yeah,
This is the contrast.
contrast. So I've seen it before. The funny thing is I've seen that button before, and it seems to almost be random when I see it and when I don't. I have no idea why. Maybe it was because it was in beta at the time. I'm not sure.
I have the dimmer, but I don't have that mute meet sound.
Me
And the
too.
funny
I
thing
I
is
don't
I
have that.
don't have the dimmer. I do not have the contrast button. I don't have either one.
Oh, that's a Tina question.
Yeah.
Now I'm wondering if only.
Dr. Tran, did you say you don't have either one, or do you have one and not the other?
I do not have the mute button.
The mute meet sound button?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna laugh if I have an extension that I never took off, and that's it.
That would be very interesting.
That would
Because
be.
it could be. It could be an extension.
I mean, it's on the Delt one. I don't know. Well, we'll have to search. I will write that one down, and I will have to ask Tina about it and see what the issue is. Because if it is an extension, one of the nice things is that Google does have the option to add extensions, which helps to modify some of your some of the things that you are allowed to do with certain applications. So I'm going to ask Tina about that one. That is actually a great question. Man, I'm all excited. I love that mute button too.
And Nancy also made a comment that she really likes using the raise your hand button for games.
Yes. That is a really great way to use it, especially when you're virtual and everyone tries to answer at once. And I think that's one of the greatest things about it, is especially when everyone tries to talk at once and then you say, okay, everyone one at a time, and then nobody wants to talk. It just kind of helps to remove that issue. Perfect. Well, I will
raise your hand when you're finished with a task, or.
Oh yes, yes. See, I love meets. We don't get to use them now because we are no longer virtual, and so it's always.
Well, I'm hybrid, so I still use it simple.
Yeah. Awesome. That is a really good question to ask Tina, because I'm thinking it must be an extension that I have.
A question I have too, I don't know if you'll get to it, is that sometimes I have to let people come in and sometimes I don't. And like if I have a co-teacher and maybe I'm absent that day and sometimes she can't get in, she can't start the meeting.
So that is a feature in the settings. And this is something that Jamie and I were just talking about too. So I know that is a feature in the settings. Let me go ahead. This does something funny when, let's see if they'll be nice today. No. Okay. So I do know, I don't remember if it is in these settings. Is it a scheduled meeting that you have?
Yes.
So when you have it scheduled, you should be able to host management. So like right here, host must join first. You can turn this part off. And that'll change a lot of it.
Okay.
And so I also think if you have it in like calendar, you should be able to also mess with some of those buttons as well. But I think it's here. I think it's in here that you kind of have to figure out those control buttons. But I think that's a question that I probably have to look at just a little bit more, because I know there are a couple. There's, like I said, Google always seems to kind of come around where you can do different things in several places. And so I'm pretty sure that there's another place where you can go to set up your settings to where, you know, you don't have to wait for someone to start the meeting. It just depends on what settings you have. But I will look at that one more, and I will get a good answer back to you, Nancy.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and some of the advanced functions are opening a whiteboard or creating a jam, changing the layout, changing full screen, switching your camera, applying visual effects, using phone for audio, creating a poll, creating breakout rooms, recording. Some of you will have those features, some of you won't. It just depends on what setting accounts you have through your NMDELT email. If you are using just a generic Gmail, you definitely will not have these because they are paid for. But if you do have an NMDELT email, you will have some of these features available. If you do not, and you would like to, if you're finding out that you need to record something, you can always reach out to Tina, and Tina can modify your settings that would apply to your account. And I know we are getting really close on time, so I'm going to go really fast through this last one, is getting organized with Google Drive. Now, with Drive, you can create folders, upload folders, share folders, star folders. You can search for documents. You can color code your folders, or you can create workspaces. Now, there's a lot of things that you can do. Google Drive is like a great big virtual filing cabinet, which is really great. You can also create files and all of that, but I really wanted to talk about folders today because Jamie is going to get to making documents and all of that next week. So I don't want to sneak into that one. I'll let Jamie do that. So when you go to Drive, if you click on this new button, it'll open up this drop-down box where it says folder, file upload, folder upload, or all of these options down here, as well as more. What you want to do is, if you just want to create a folder to start putting in stuff, you can definitely hit that folder button. If you have a folder from your computer that you want to upload, you can always just upload a folder. Now, if you have like Word documents or anything like that, it'll still keep them like that until you convert them to a Google Doc, sheet, or slide, something like that. Just kind of keep that in mind as you are uploading folders. Now, if it's pictures and whatnot, that's usually easier to manage because it'll just upload it nicely. But if it is like a Microsoft Word document or an Excel file, it'll still have it open. You just can't edit it as nicely until you have changed it or converted it to docs. Now, yeah, that's Jamie's turf. So I won't get there, but Jamie can talk about that next.
Yeah.
Perfect. So whenever you have created a folder, so what I have right here, and I should have flip-flopped this, but whenever you have your folder and you have opened it up, there are several settings that you have in there. So this was in my Drive. It was my Screencastify folder. So there's this little arrow button, which is a drop-down button, which has all of these wonderful options on here. Now, you can share it with other people, whether they have an NMDELT account or a Gmail account or not. You can share it with anybody as long as you have either their contact in your files, or if you have their email, you can do that. You can also get a link that will either let them view or share or edit, comment. You can change the settings there. You can add it as a shortcut. You can move it to a different folder. You can add a star, rename it, change the color. We're going to talk about changing the colors here in a little bit because it just helps to manage. If you like being organized and you like having things colored, you can definitely color code it to whatever you want. So if you wanted it to be green, or if you have a classroom that you would like to be yellow, you can always identify it with that. Now, note with that, if you change it on your end and you share it with someone else, it does not change that color. It's only on your end. So other people cannot see the colors that you have if you share that file. It's only on your end. So it's definitely an organization for you. And then you can search within the specific folder. You can download the whole folder or you can delete the folder. Cool. Now, if you're like me and you know your organization skills went out the window like long time ago, you can definitely search the drive just in this search button, which is up top anytime you go to drive. If you hit this filter button, you can have all of these different options, you know, where it might be. If you know that it has something in it, you can type some of the words in there, like, oh, I think I was talking about writing a essay, so I could type essay here and try to look for it, or I can just type a very basic. My problem is half the time I don't give my documents or any of my files names. So it'll be like untitled document or untitled folder. So that doesn't help me when I'm trying to search for it. But if I want something like specific, like I know it's a person's name or I know somebody shared it with me, I'll come through here and I will use these extended search buttons to find the file that I'm looking for. Or if I'm just trying to look for something in general, I know I have thousands and thousands of files on my drive and I want to find some that talk about main idea or fractions or anything like that, I can type it in here and it'll give me a very huge search of what I'm trying to search for. And then if you have an individual file, so if I don't want to go into the file, but I want to just click on the file, I can right click on it and then I can either open and it'll open up all of these same options again that we just went through. I can open with a different application. I can share it, get the link. I can show where the folder is. So if you have like a folder inside of a folder inside of a folder, you can definitely see where that folder's location is. You can search that individual folder just by hitting that right click button, or you can download it again. And of course, it has all of these options once more, the rename, the change color, and you can even view details to see who has been accessing it or who has been making changes. Cool. Now, once you star a folder, so one of my favorite things to do is to, whenever I hit right click, so remember here I can add a star. There are some folders that I go into a lot simply because I use them over and over and over. And instead of going into the folder, into the folder, into the folder, I'll just put a star on it. So that way, when I click on starred, I'll go directly to this folder and I know which file I want to look at. For me, this has been a huge lifesaver just because it's that much easier to find the materials that I'm wanting very quickly. This is the same thing like as you saw in Gmail, those starred files, it just puts them into another category on their own. Oh, woohoo! And we finished at 1 o'clock. Wow, we are good.
Great job, Mariah.
Thank
Good
you all.
job. Yay.
Oh, I can talk. We all know that now. But we would like to thank you all for coming. We really do appreciate
Absolutely.
it. We want to really help you guys explore all of the great tools that we have through, you know, NMDOUT, through that email that we have, the G Suite for Education. It's really good. So thank you for coming to today's webinar. Our next webinar will be April 7th, and that will be reviewing Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, and Google Forms. So we are really, really excited. And Jamie will be presenting that because she is absolutely wonderful at it. I'm excited to see it. And so that's just a little sneak peek. Please remember, we do have all of our webinar series for the rest of the fiscal year. So just keep a lookout. And I believe that is all for today. So thank you, everyone, for coming. And we hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
And it
Thank
looks
you.
like Dr. Tran raised his hand. He used the raise hand feature. Woo!
Yay! I learned something. Quick question for the Google Drive. Do I have to open my Gmail in order to use it, or can I just open the drive by itself?
You can just open Drive. Now, it will ask you to sign in. So if I wanted to, all you have to do is say drive.google.com and it'll take you straight there.
Got it.
I'm already there, so it didn't go anywhere. But yes, just
Right.
drive.google. So any one that you want to go to, like gmail.com, go straight there. But if you wanted to go calendar, it's calendar.google.com or meet.google.com. Any of them, any of those like applications through Google, you'll just put the name first and then a dot google.com.
Got it. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Hey, I learned something. We have good trainers and good monitors, so thank you guys.
Thank you both
you.
very much for
There's
coming.
always-
Mariah, thank you so much.
Always so much to learn. No
Yes,
matter how many
for
times I
sure.
come to these.
Absolutely. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Okay,
Thank
bye-bye.
you. You too. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.